coverage of college basketball. Happy holidays. The new year is upon us. This is built by the Home Depot as the South Florida Bulls face the number 4 team in the country, the UConn Huskies, from the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut. UConn started this season not even ranked in the preseason in late November, but boy, if things changed, they've jumped up to number 4 after a big-time trip in Maui. With former Tennessee All-American Kara Lawson, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Happy New Year, everybody. Both these teams right now, South Florida and UConn, start the season 0-1 in Big East play. Both need a win here tonight.
Oh, they do. And once you start conference play, things start to crystallize for yourself as a team, and teams being able to expose weaknesses. They've seen a 10 to 12 game slate for these teams. They know what to do, and both teams suffered those early losses.
Let's take a look at our Star Watch, and I think fans are across the country excited to watch Kemba Walker here tonight.
Kemba Walker alone gives you the reason to watch this game. He's a National Player of the Year candidate. You see that 31 points in the loss against Pitt. He's looking to bounce back, only 10 for 27 from the field in that game. Ron Anderson Jr., really the emotional leader of South Florida. He will not start tonight, but makes a big impact, particularly.
Let's meet your starting lineups for both these teams, and we'll start with the South Florida Bulls. They are 6-8, 0-1 in conference play. The senior Jared Famous out of the Bronx, New York, a 6'11 senior, 14 points, 9 rebounds the last 4 games. He wears number 31. On the other side, we've talked about Kemba Walker, but a guy that really played well early on, Alex Oriaki, the 6'9 sophomore from Lowell, Massachusetts. He had 15 points and 17 boards against Michigan State. He was on the Maui Invitational All-Tournament team. He wears number 34 for the Huskies of UConn. Stan Heath in his 4th season and 10th year as a head coach at the Division I level. He's been at Kent State, Arkansas, now USF, 3 NCAA appearances. On the other side, Jim Calhoun. Boy, what a career he has had. All-time inside the Big East, 289 wins. Sets second only to Jim Boeheim. A couple of national titles, 3 Final Fours, and it goes on and on. Should be a fun atmosphere here tonight. Holiday weekend, and away we go.
It should be a great atmosphere, like you said. And the thing about it is both these teams lost their Big East home openers. You cannot afford to fall too far behind in conference races. No one wants to come out of this game 0-2.
South Florida in the green uniforms, UConn in the home whites, and the Huskies have it. And here's a look at Kemba Walker. He wears number 15 for the Huskies. He is the leading scorer in the country.
When you play against Kemba Walker, it's always interesting to see the defensive schemes that people come across. Talked with Stan Heath this morning. He said, we're going to do a lot of similar things that Pitt did to really frustrate UConn on the offensive end.
That is the only loss for UConn this year. That was to Pitt. This is Jeremy Lamb, a freshman, 10 on the shot clock now for the Huskies. Walker takes it himself. Out to Lamb, down to 5. Lamb leans in underneath, off the glass, 2-0 UConn. For South Florida, Kara, how about your keys to the game?
You talk about going on the road in conference, and South Florida cannot afford to get Kemberized, and he has the ability to score in spurts, but also close it out. This is a team that's lost every one of their games by single digits. They have not been good down the stretch in close games.
Ron Anderson Jr. will come off the bench. He's got 9 points, 8 rebounds a game. That's a 3-up, no good. And into the hands of UConn. Let's take a look at their keys to the game.
Bounce back, and that's so big in a conference like this. Bounce back from that bad shooting performance. Only 9 for 33 for the rest of the team outside Kemba Walker. They need to be better on the offensive end tonight.
Back to Ron Anderson Jr. Why not start him for South Florida?
It's a rotation that Stan Heath has, and he likes all 3 guys that he has. Gilchrist, Famous, and Ron Anderson Jr., depending on the game, is who he's going to go with, but he considers all 3 of them starters.
Charles Okwandu, the 7-foot senior from Nigeria. 4-0 UConn. You and I were talking at the shoot-around today. Stan Heath mentioned it as well. We have to keep this game close if we have any chance, especially early on.
One of the things that South Florida has really struggled with early in the season, they can't seem to find a consistent point guard. Mike Burwell is who gets to start tonight. Stan Heath said because of his intelligence, I think he can get us in the right stuff early on.
And that will be an offensive foul against the Bulls. Gilchrist, the junior out of Maryland. This is a team a year ago, the Bulls, that went 20-13. And they've had only 3 20-win seasons in school history. They went 9-9 in the Big East. You play 500 in the Big East, you're a pretty good team.
You're a pretty good team, and one of the things that Stan Heath talked about is UConn continues to get into the paint. At will.
Yeah, quickly a timeout taken here by South Florida after the great feed that time from the All-American candidate Kemba Walker and the finish by Smith underneath. So timeout taken by Stan Heath, and a look at the series history. Number 4 UConn leads this series 7-1. The last meeting was on senior night of 2010, and South Florida won that game 75-68. Their only win in the matchups between the two schools.
Well, you know, in talking to Stan Heath earlier today, he said, listen, the Big East is a tough conference. Everyone knows that, but it really is a momentum league. He said, we started 0-4 in the league last year. You have to find a way to get that first win, establish momentum, and that's what his team is looking forward to doing. They started off both of their first big game. Both their 2 first games on the road in the Big East. That's tough. They go to Seton Hall, they lose, and now they're at UConn.
Just how good is this UConn team? We showed you earlier that they started the season unranked, and now they find themselves number 4 in the land.
Well, Kemba Walker is a guy that has played like the National Player of the Year, but he's waiting for these freshmen to come along. Jim Calhoun starts 2 freshmen. A lot of them are in the rotation, so it's a young team that needs to continue to grow.
Famous, the missed shot pulled away by Oriaki. Great start here for UConn. There may not be a faster player in the country than that young man with the basketball, Kemba Walker. As he goes, UConn goes. With the left hand, the finish by Oriaki. An 8-0 run to start this game. Here's Robertson in the lane, and he can't finish. Ball is loose. It's on the floor. And they'll call it a jump ball. It'll stay with South Florida. Let's go back to Alex Oriaki, the sophomore from Massachusetts.
Well, an area of the offensive end of the floor that UConn needs to improve on is getting paint touches, particularly for their big men. Finishing in the lane. We've seen Okwandu get one early on, and now Oriaki. That's a good sign for them to start this game.
That's 6 of the 8 points scored in the paint for UConn. Another open look, and a decent look that time. Walker saves it. The freshman Lamb up the floor. Oriaki with it. Kicks it back out to Lamb, who got the first bucket. Too strong, tipped, and in the hands of Gilchrist. One thing about UConn, too, that we noticed at the shoot-around today, they are long, they are very athletic defensively. And they get after it.
They do, and Roscoe Smith, who starts at the small forward position, does a great job. Assistant coach George Blaney compared him to Scottie Pippen in terms of how he can defend a man, but also brilliant on the help side.
That's a leading scorer. Gilchrist injured his ankle last year, missed 15 games, and in doing so really cost South Florida. Now, South Florida rebounding was something that the coaching staff of UConn talked about. They want to make sure and get on the boards because the Bulls have out-rebounded 12 of their 14 opponents they've seen. Knocked out of bounds, and that's South Florida basketball. Augustus Gilchrist, the 6'10 junior out of Clinton, Maryland, finally gets South Florida on the board. They're on the road. Tough test tonight, trailing 8-2. Tonight's ESPNU college basketball is built by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. Number 4 in the land on display tonight here on ESPNU. UConn with an 8-2 lead over USF. Big East action. Busy week here on ESPNU, and this weekend the home of the top 5. Number 1, Duke defeated UNCG, and that was Coach K, win number 880. That was on Wednesday. We were at KU that night. Kansas defeated UT Arlington. We've got our ball game here this evening. Number 4 UConn tomorrow. Boy, what a great game that will be in the Big East, and then we'll wrap it up on Sunday night with Kansas. Pretty good basketball here on ESPNU.
Great basketball, and you have opportunity to see Kansas men who we had the privilege of seeing, and great freshman in Josh Selby, who became eligible a few games ago for the Jayhawks.
That shot is no good. A whistle and a foul and a hold underneath. And that will go against USF. And I believe they're going to get Ron Anderson Jr.
Number 1, Ron Anderson Jr.
So Anderson Jr. into the ball game for the first time, and the transfer from K-State whistled for the foul. Been a tough start, 1 of 6 for South Florida. Here's Kemba Walker, and they double on him. Little backdoor to Lamb. Look at that. Couldn't finish though with the left hand. Here's Crater. Thought about the 3 out to Poland. They'll set up the offense. Man-to-man by Connecticut. Walker is so quick. Look at that defense that he plays. And he may have been hit there on the face. Walker at the head of the key is stunned a little bit. And there's a 3 from the left side by Hugh Robertson, and Walker is shook up. He stepped through a defender, and he may have gotten hit by his own man.
Something for the Huskies in the 13 should have 8 year, 15 Kemba Walker.
It was the elbow right there.
Little elbow to the face, and you'll see Shabazz Napier now, the freshman, come in at the point guard position. A lot of times Kemba Walker and Shabazz Napier will play together, but he's a confident young man, has a great ability to score the basketball. Jim Calhoun would like to see him finish better in traffic in the paint.
Last season, UConn 18-16. They went 7-11 in the Big East, which they finished 12th in. And maybe a little deceptive because, Kara, they were 1-8 in games decided by 5 points or less. So this team was very close to having a much different look to their season.
They were, and they were also not good on the road. And if you can't win close games, if you can't win on the road, which is what University of South Florida is dealing with right now, it's tough to get in the NCAA tournament.
Aquandu whistled for the foul. Capital One Bowl Week continues tomorrow, New Year's Day on ESPNU, as Northwestern takes on Texas Tech. Can the Wildcats notch their first bowl win since 1949? Or will it be Taylor Potts leading the Red Raiders to a bowl victory? The Ticket City Bowl on ESPNU tomorrow, New Year's Day at noon Eastern. And Texas Tech, no Mike Leach, doesn't matter because Tommy Tuberville and that passing game still very effective for the Red Raiders, and you'll see it tomorrow.
You talk about the point guard struggles of South Florida, and that's why we see the extension of pressure by UConn. Not only are they trying to speed up their game, they're trying to do that. That's forced turnovers by the Bulls.
And Crater threw it away. Jim Calhoun, what a career he has had. 833 career wins, 6th all-time. And it was a pleasure to visit with him. You know, we always see that demeanor on the sidelines at times where maybe he's jumping on his kids a little bit or gets frustrated with the officials, but very pleasant to visit with him today.
Yeah, Jim Calhoun is an intense coach. He wants to squeeze every ounce of ability out of his players, but an average sports fan, we talked a little bit about the UConn women's streak ending last night, and always wants to talk about football and basketball. I mean, whatever. Like I said, Jim Calhoun, a great sports fan and really a great pillar in this community in Connecticut.
Niels Giffey, a freshman out of Germany, has checked in for UConn. Had the pleasure, if you want to call it that, of flying from Chicago to Hartford today. And on that flight just happened to be the women's team for UConn. And there were some long faces, I can tell you folks, and they were still stung a little bit after the loss last night. When
it's been 2.5 years since you've lost a basketball game, it has to be an awkward feeling for the University of Connecticut women's team, but should be applauded what they were able to accomplish. 90 straight games, amazing.
And just like that with that 3, South Florida right back in the game. We're tied up at 8-8. Crater, the junior, with the 3. Trying to feed it inside, deflected. USF with numbers, they want to run. Poland with it, leads it, but that'll be a travel. And an even 13 minutes to go in our first half of play.
And when you look at USF, they've got one of the best front lines in the Big East Conference. You know, Jim Calhoun said today that Augustus Gilchrist might be the most talented big man in the conference. He said, I'm not saying he's the best big man, but he just might be the most talented. So they have an imposing front line, and they will work the glass. They've led or tied in the rebounding battle in 12 of 14 of their games. So you better come ready to play in the paint against South Florida.
Oriaki inside. By the way, Kemba Walker is checked back in. It's good news for UConn fans. Shook up just a bit with that elbow, but back in there. So Oriaki will head to the line. A 65% free throw shooter. Very good from the floor. Much of his damage is done inside and about 5 to 7 feet from the basket, 53% from the floor, and he hits the first free throw. UConn's last field goal was at 17-15. Substitution for South Florida. Mike Burwell, the sophomore out of New Jersey in. Over 1,700 points in high school and averaging 3 points in college. It's funny how you see some of these guys are great players in high school and scorers, and then get to this level, it's a little different story.
You step up to major Division I level, especially a conference like the Big East. You have to sacrifice as a player for your role of shots, points, if you want your team to be successful.
Open look again, Crater for three, and he's got it. His second.
Well, that's great news for South Florida. They've struggled from beyond the arc against Seton Hall, and their guards have not hit shots this season. So for Crater to get an early three, that's big.
Kemba Walker with the basketball. What's interesting about Walker is that he averaged 12 points a game prior to this year, and now he's averaging 27. Walker with it here, 15 on the shot clock. Yafai, no good. Inside, the follow, that's no good. Out to Walker with a fresh 35. Walker pulls it back, and there's that leadership that he provides. Little ball fake inside. That's too strong, and the defense of South Florida much improved in the first couple of minutes.
You can see the interior size. One of the things that Stan Heath talked about was packing the paint against his team, particularly with a player as prolific as Kemba Walker.
UConn started 4 of 5 in this game, opened up in an 8-0 run. Since then, 0 for 7. The Bulls with a 1-point lead. This is Crater, who's got a couple of threes. Shot clock is down to 4. Burwell gives it up. Off the mark on that shot was Jared Famous, and UConn has it. Walker wants to run. Kemba Walker pulls up, lets it fly right over Robertson and hits the 2. Here's Anderson Jr. Double team down on the post. Finds Robertson for 3. Too strong. Tipped. And UConn has it. That'll be a foul inside. And that'll go against Jared Famous. They went from unranked to number 4. Big reason why the Maui Invitational. Wichita State went down. Then 2 teams in the top 8. We'll take you back to the Maui Invitational after this. Back in Hartford, where it's 12-11, UConn, number 4 team in the country with a 1-point lead with 10.5 to play in our first half. The Maui Invitational. This is when UConn would arrive on the scene. It was a win over Wichita State. Then number 8 Kentucky would go down. 84-67. Kemba Walker with 29 in that game. Then they took on number 2 Michigan State. And Kemba Walker, he had 30 in 38 minutes in that game. Absolutely phenomenal. So Wichita State 83-79. Then number 2 Michigan State. Number 9 Kentucky. Kemba Walker averaged 30, the tournament MVP.
It was an amazing breakout performance for Kemba Walker and kind of launched his All-American campaign this season. But to me, the difference in UConn the last few weeks since the Maui tournament, Alex Soriaki was a beast in the paint in Maui. And since Maui, he's not quite been his consistent self. And I think he's such a key in the Big East when there's so many teams that have great front lines, as South Florida does this evening. You've got to be able to score in the paint.
There's Kemba Walker, who has 2 so far. Kicks it out to the right side. 3 up, that's well short. And Crater has had a good start to this game for the Bulls with the rebound, his second of the night. It's a team that South Florida misses a guy like Dominique Jones, who was an All-Big East performer a year ago. He was just an electrifying player.
Very much so, and the scoring has been inconsistent on the wings. You look at Hugh Robertson, he's played well as of late. A guy that I think can really step up for this team is Jawanza Poland. I think he's somebody that can up his minutes, that can up his points, and really contribute from the wing.
And a whistle Going to be a hold against the Huskies on Oriaki. That's his first and the team's second. The Bulls have really settled down. You know, after a tough start, the 8-0 run by UConn, they've gotten into a little bit of a rhythm offensively, and the threes, shooting well, got them back in the game.
Execution of their offense, it was really non-existent again in their loss to Seton Hall, and getting the ball into the paint, that sets everything up for this team.
Down to 12 on the shot clock. Here's Gilchrist, fade away, too strong. And a fresh 35. Gilchrist gets it back in the lane. Little runner, that's no good. And the rebound to Olander, the freshman out of Connecticut. Oriaki inside with the left hand. Pretty move.
That's a nice move, and that's what Alex Oriaki can give you. When he settles himself down, he plays with balance in the paint, doesn't rush, he's able to finish.
When you look at this Big East Conference, who do you like this year?
Well, Pitt sure looked impressive to start the year. There's so much balance in this conference. Notre Dame has come out and started really well. Of course, Syracuse still undefeated. There's so many different teams, and you know, we talk about the leadership and of a player like Kemba Walker. To be able to win on the road in this conference, to be able to establish momentum will mean everything to this team's early on.
Now, Kara, you work a lot in the studio. All right, your buddy goes to St. John's. Are you saying to Steve Lavin, what are you thinking?
You know, Steve Lavin is doing a great job in recruiting, and that's, you know, trying to revive that program and get the Garden rocking again. But it's going to take a couple of years as he tries to replenish that group. But you take a look at here, and Kemba Walker does such a tremendous job of getting in the paint and drawing contact, and he can still finish when he does draw contact. Shoots a great percentage from the free throw line. This kid is everything you would want in a player to your program. He's on track to graduate this spring in 3 years. He's the consummate leader, the consummate teammate, and deserves everything that's coming to him for the hard work that he's put into his game in the offseason.
That's his 90th attempt already from the free throw line this year. He's an 84% free throw shooter. As Kara just mentioned, I think the real key there is they say he's a guy that just lights up the room, great leader, and he buys into what Jim Calhoun is preaching and his coaching staff. And when your leader buys in, the rest of the group kind of buys in with him.
You have to have buy-in from your leaders, and Kemba Walker really took the time this summer to play pickup with his teammates, to create opportunities for them off the court to bond, and that type of stuff translates when you're in tight games, when you're on the road.
Boy, he's quick. Poland with it. Now they'll go inside to Ron Anderson Jr. out of Maryland, elevates and gets it to fall. Kemba Walker with the basketball, 4 points so far. 20 or more in 10 straight games for Kemba Walker. Only 3 players have ever done that in UConn history. And that will be a foul. And that's going to go against Okwandu, the 7-foot senior down low. Got the elbow up. Nice move by Oriaki here. As Kira's talked about, he's got to be this kind of presence inside. 16-15 UConn over South Florida with 7:42 to go on New Year's Eve. Before you watch the 6 bowl games on ESPN's family of networks tomorrow, New Year's Day, ESPNU prepares the fans with pre-game coverage. First at 10 a.m. Eastern. Get the latest analysis and predictions on College Game Day. 11 Eastern, it's First and 10, College Football Bowl Edition. At 11:30 a.m., catch College Football Whip Around. College Game Day, First and 10, and College Football Whip Around on ESPNU. And that's Saturday. Northwestern, Texas Tech on the U at noon Eastern. Alabama, Michigan State. Great matchup there. Florida, Penn State, Joe Paterno, Mississippi State, Michigan, and the rest of those games all coming up on the ESPN family of networks.
Well, everyone here so excited in the state of Connecticut. UConn wins the Big East and qualifies for a BCS Bowl for the first time. Great coaching job by Randy Edsall.
Who would have thought that a couple of years ago, huh? They get Oklahoma, who at one point was #1 in the country. Gilchrist inside and a chance at a three-point play.
You can see how difficult this USF front line is to deal with. And Augustus Gilchrist fighting Tyler Olander, getting the basket. And if I'm USF, you look at the proficiency of their big man and the good things that have happened. The ball should touch the paint in one of their post players every time down the court. UConn's having a difficult time contending with them.
2-point lead for the Bulls. Gilchrist completes a three-point play. Here's Walker, who has 4 points. Draws contact and a foul. You know, even when you don't have a flow offensively, and right now UConn is in that rut, great players find a way to score by going to the line.
Absolutely, and that's what Kemba Walker is, and so smart there. You look at when he comes off of screens, he sees a ton of hard hedges. The post player jumping out and trying not to let him turn the corner. What he does so smartly there is he uses the screen again, reuses it, and now there's no post player on the hedge, enables him to get that mismatch.
Walker is perfect from the free throw line, 3 of 3 tonight. Mentioned earlier, 20 or more in 10 straight games. He has 30 or more in 5 games this year. And matter of fact, against Vermont and Wichita State, Kemba Walker poured in, folks, 73 points in those 2 games. 73. The Vermont game was here in Hartford at the XL Center. And he had 42 in that game, which tied a UConn record.
Nice play, nice backdoor. South Florida has done a great job with their execution. Jim Calhoun's going to take a timeout. UConn needs to do a better job, particularly in weak side defense.
I would say that Jim Calhoun is not happy.
No, he's not happy. He's not happy because he wants the level of their defense to really raise. He understands that going into Big East play, they need it.
That was classic with the timeout, looking right at Oriaki. Anyway, here's Kemba Walker's season highlights for him. Through 11 games, nearly 300 points, 42, as we mentioned, against Vermont, 90 in the Maui, triple-double against UMBC, and 30-plus points in 5 games. Incredible start to his junior campaign.
He's such a complete player, and you talk about how quick he is with the basketball. One of the things he does so well is he changes speeds. So it's one thing to be quick, but when you have the ability and the sense to change speeds and transition in the half court, you're very, very difficult to defend.
2018, South Florida with the lead by 2 on the road at the XL Center, formerly known as the Hartford Civic Center. In the lane, that's no good, and the Bulls have it. Walker wanted a foul, didn't get it. Anthony Crater has had a couple of threes so far with it for South Florida. Inside the arc and knocked down by Augustus Gilchrist. And the other way, a strip. Napier tried to force it. The Bulls running. No good. Put back. That's no good. And Gilchrist will go to the line and shoot 2.
Well, Jim Calhoun livid at Roscoe Smith for not sprinting back on defense. And you have to always assume when you're on defense that the first player down the court is going to miss the layup. That's what Augustus Gilchrist does right there. But UConn's got to get back in transition. If they can set up their defense, they can utilize their length, Roscoe Smith on the wings. But right now, South Florida doing a tremendous job of getting in the passing lanes, wreaking havoc, and as a result, they're getting great looks at the basket.
And it looks like our officials are going to check to see that they've got the right person, the right player on the foul call. So 22-18 in favor of Stan Heath's club. Right now, this is probably not what Stan wants. Stoppage and play like this to kind of slow things up because he has the momentum in this game right now.
They have seized the momentum, and it starts with their post play. The fact that they have, great size and great strength. And how about Gilchrist here? I mean, this is a guy that pounds the paint, that has shown us an array of post moves early on, but to step out, the ability to do that and face up. Really, really hard to defend a post player that big and that versatile.
So they're going to take a look and see if Gilchrist, if this is a 3, so it's not on the foul call, but is this a 3? And so they're going to count that as a 2. Clearly his foot was on the line.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but to me, I'm sure you're probably not in favor of stopping the game. But clearly that's a call that you can see that he's on the line. Once you know that, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a clear 2-point shot.
Gilchrist has been very good from the free throw line. Normally just barely over 50%. Good looking stroke, hits them both.
Yeah. When you're feeling good, 50% free throw shooter can turn into a 90% one.
And USF has opened up their biggest lead of the night at 6. Under 6 to go here in our first half of play. Napier with it. Here's Kemba Walker in the lane, hanging, no good. Ball loose, he kept that alive. Underneath, and a block. That's the foul you don't mind, as that'll send Oriaki, a 65% free throw shooter, to the line.
Great court presence there by Shabazz Napier, the freshman. Corrals a loose ball, finds an open Oriaki down there on the baseline. One of the things that UConn struggled with against Pitt, particularly on the offensive end, using screens. Pitt is so physical, they push you off the screens, and I think that's an area of improvement for this team on the perimeter. And when you look at a player like Jeremy Lamb, who has great length, if he can use screens better in Big East play, he's got an opportunity to be a double-figure scorer consistently in this offense.
1 of 2 from the free throw line. Gilchrist with his 3rd board. Gilchrist with it. Back door again. The second time we've seen that tonight. And Crater has 8 for South Florida.
That's the second time on the quick reversal. Ball to the top of key. First time it was Kemba Walker that fell asleep. That time Napier.
Napier puts it on the floor, and he is fouled. Shabazz Napier out of Randolph, Massachusetts. 4:59 to go in our first half of play. One that has been, I think, Kerry, you'd have to say, a little bit sluggish after the initial push by UConn. Started out on an 8-0.
Is at its best when they play at a fast pace. Kemba Walker can be so dynamic in transition. They have wings that can get out and run, guys that can finish at the rim. And so what Jim Calhoun is trying to get his players to understand is to push the ball in every opportunity, not get caught into a half-court game as they did against Pittsburgh. And they struggled in that offensively.
Their only loss of the year to Pitt, 78-63.
It's much easier to load up on a guy like Kemba Walker, to blitz him, to double team when you're in a half-court set. When it's transition and you've got numbers, he's more free to make plays for himself and for his teammates.
This is Robertson, who has a 3 tonight, to Poland, under 15 on the shot clock. Haynes with it. They'll go inside. Fitzpatrick spinning, looking for help, and he threw it away. Back to UConn.
UConn ball.
Right there, you were just talking about that, trying to speed you up a little bit, and I thought the defense of UConn did that.
Defense was better that possession. I thought what USF should have done is give Gilchrist the basketball. He had positioning on the block. Give him the basketball. Let him work.
Here's Walker at the head of the key and knocks it down. That's their first field goal since 9:08.
You talked about it, Dan. You can feel the pace is picking up a little bit, and that's in UConn's favor. The players they have on the perimeter, there we go with Napier. You feel the momentum shift in this game because of their ability to turn it up on the defensive end.
And just like that, it's a 5-second call, so Haynes lifted from the game. Stan Heath doesn't want to see that. He's trying to give Crater a little breather, but he puts him right back in.
Point guard play has been a struggle all season long, and Anthony Crater did not start the game tonight. Stan Heath went with Mike Burwell, but you know, I asked Stan Heath, I said, well, which player do you feel like ultimately is going to step up and take the reins of this team, this offense? And he said Anthony Crater has everything inside him that he needs to be able to do it. He's just hoping for more consistency.
Now, Walker was working so hard to get the basketball. Good job defensively here by Hugh Robertson. They switch at the top. Walker looking for help. He'll let it fly. With 2 on the shot clock, that's no good. And chased down by Napier. Great hustle from the freshman. Lets it fly. He got it. And the fans now come alive. Gilchrist with it. 15 on the shot clock. Here's Robertson. Down to 9. Gilchrist from 15. No good. Ripped away by Jeremy Lamb, another freshman. Here's Napier. Napier pulls up, and that'll be an offensive foul. The freshman that Jim Calhoun really likes. He's talked about Lamb, and he's also talked about Napier. And here's Shabazz Napier with the great hustle to keep it alive and then bury the 3. So Napier with that 3 ties it up at 26. 2:44 to go first half. We'll talk about Huskies football when we come back on ESPNU. 2:44 to go, and we're tied up at 26. The number 4 team in the country, the Huskies of UConn against South Florida. The Big East on ESPNU. And we flash back with a little football. Connecticut and South Florida. Early December. Kara, you talked about it. You live up here now. The excitement is not just about the women's basketball team or what's happening with the men's team that has won a couple of national championships, but football has taken center stage to an extent too.
It has, and the first BCS game in school history, the Fiesta Bowl, a tall task when you talk about playing Landry Jones in Oklahoma, but Randy Edsall's team pounds the rock, and Jordan Todman has done a tremendous job as a running back this year, and all the players on the basketball teams very excited for their football brethren, fellow athletes. Exciting times on the UConn campus.
No doubt about it. UConn and Oklahoma. Bob Stoops, number 1 at one point. Here's Poland off that pass as they beat the pressure. No good. Another board inside, and that's a big difference so far in this first half. The rebound and the putback by Hugh Robertson. (28-26) in favor of the Bulls. Kara Lawson, the former All-American at Tennessee, and WNBA champion. Among many of her accomplishments, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Happy New Year, everyone. Glad you're with us here from the XL Center in Hartford. Trying to go behind his back. He got away with it. It's 5 on the shot clock. They have to let it fly. They beat the clock. It's no good. And into the hands of Poland. And a whistle inside. And that will go against Connecticut. Capital One Bowl Week continues tomorrow, New Year's Day on the U, as Northwestern, the Wildcats, hook up with Texas Tech. Can the Wildcats notch their first bowl win since 1949? New Year's Day at noon on ESPN UHD. Ball loose and picked up by Connecticut and saved for the second time in the first half by Kemba Walker. What an interesting time to be a Connecticut fan. You had the women's basketball streak that was snapped last night, thanks to Stanford. You could have this team, the Huskies on the men's side, start 0-2 in Big East play for the first time since 1989.
That's not part of the exciting time, though.
I know. And then you have football as an underdog, but going to a big-time bowl.
8 on the team.
So what's coming up at the half? Ryan Burr and Miles Simon, the former standout at Arizona. Highlights of Kentucky, Louisville. Louisville took one on the chin. Minnesota, Michigan State, Northwestern, Purdue, Coppin State, Texas, North Florida, Kansas State. And we'll also have first half highlights and stats as well. Another miss by South Florida. You can't afford to do that on the road.
Getting to the free throw line, they've been good. They've been good in post-up situations, but the payoff comes in making your free throws. And South Florida needs to try and stretch out this lead a little bit. You know UConn will have a second half run, and Kemba Walker's yet to really get going.
And Walker nearly lost it, stayed with it. Shot up on the right side, only a 2. Foot was on the line. Olander, the freshman out of Connecticut.
Olander can make that shot. That's not a surprise. He's very, very good from the elbow area. A good pick and pop post player. Has range and utilizes that strength right there.
Here's Robertson. And one thing about the women's team from last night, how about all the eyeballs that were watching that game? The rating was very, very high and exceptional for women's basketball.
Absolutely. An opportunity there for Stanford to showcase themselves to the country, and tremendous defensive game plan there by Tara Vanderveer, and congratulations to that game plan and the execution of it that they put together last night.
So here we are, tied up at 28 with 15 seconds to go in the first half of play. Shabazz Napier with it, the freshman. Now to Walker, down to 5. He lost it. They can get a look here. 3, down to 2. Fitzpatrick with 1, no good. And the putback won't count. It was after the buzzer, so we finish up the first half tied up at 28, and certainly a little bit of a surprise.
A little bit of a surprise, particularly the way UConn came out, but you have to credit South Florida and their consistency in getting it inside. The other thing they've done very well, they've chased Kemba Walker over screens, not allowed him to get in the paint at will.
4 ties, 4 lead changes, and we're tied up at 28. You're watching number 4 in the country on ESPNU tonight. The Huskies of Connecticut against South Florida, 28 all on New Year's Eve. Welcome back to ESPNU's coverage of college basketball, built by the Home Depot. South Florida and number 4 UConn. We're tied up at 28. Kara Lawson, Dan McLaughlin back with you. And you look at the first half of play, Kara. You know, UConn really set the tone early on, but give the Bulls some credit. They came back, withstood that, and played very well.
Absolutely, and they utilized what is one of the most imposing front lines in the Big East Conference, and led by Augustus Gilchrist. His ability to post up, he stepped out, he hit a jump shot or 2, and they're pounding the rock in the paint, and that has been the difference in why they're able to tie the score at the half. All
right, let's take a look at some of the highlights from that first half, and again, we are tied up at 28.
When you look at the post up and Augustus Gilchrist, his ability to face up, he could turn, he's got an array of post moves. We saw the backdoor play, very good read there by Hugh Robertson. And then Kemba Walker, the National Player of the Year candidate, the All-American, he got going a little bit in the first half. I thought South Florida did a pretty good job keeping him at bay. Expect Kemba to come out really aggressive to start the second half.
Kemba Walker 2 of 5 in that first half, but 4 of 4 from the free throw line. He had 8 for the leading scorer in the country. Tied up at 28 here on ESPNU. Welcome back to ESPNU's coverage of college basketball, built by the Home Depot, as South Florida takes on UConn here at the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut. We're tied up at 28. Second half is just about here, and let's take a look at the first half stats. And for you, Kara, what stands out with these 6 players that we have?
The thing that stands out here is Anthony Crater with 8 points. He's been one of the players under fire for USF. And he talked about him trying to find a point guard. Well, he found a point guard in the first half tonight so far. Great job by Crater scoring the basketball. He's knocked down 2 threes as well.
So Gilchrist with 9, Kemba Walker with 8, and 4 rebounds for the All-American candidate. ESPNU, we have been busy with the top 5 teams in the country. It started just a couple of days ago with Mike Krzyzewski picking up win number 880 in his career over North Carolina, Greensboro. Then you and I had the game that followed that immediately with Kansas over UT Arlington. Had a chance to see Josh Selby and the electrifying freshman. Had a tough night in that ball game. This evening, number 4 UConn obviously in play here against South Florida. Tomorrow, great matchup. Number 15 Notre Dame against number 5 Syracuse. And then Sunday, Miami of Ohio again will be at KU at 6 Eastern on Sunday. But the big news here locally, undoubtedly, football and also this one. The women's basketball team loses to Stanford last night, 71-59, and just a remarkable streak of 90 consecutive wins is snapped.
You look at what Gino Auriemma and his program have been able to do. Maya Moore really struggled from the field last night, but credit Stanford and their defensive game plan, how locked in their players were. It was a great game and an opportunity now as you look back to understand how great that streak was. And the women, again, to repeat the story, they were on the West Coast, obviously, taking on Stanford. So to fly back across the country, they did not have a flight that was chartered, so they had to connect through Chicago. And of course, I just happened to be there on that same flight this morning with the women, and a lot of long faces, and you could see disappointment. Maya Moore did not have a very good game last night. That was clear. She's been much better at times, but it was neat walking through the concourse here in Hartford as the ladies were getting their bags, and everybody stopped, stared, and they said, yeah, that's Gino, yeah, that's Maya, and everybody just kind of stood and clapped as they walked through the concourse at the airport. So it was a neat moment to see that this morning. It's a neat moment when you have an opportunity to see what this program means to the state, both the men's and women's programs, national championships. Both won the national championship in 2004, unprecedented, both teams. The men's team led by Emeka Okafor that year, the women's team led by Diana Taurasi, who happens to be Jim Calhoun's favorite player in UConn women's history. We chatted about Diana Taurasi a little bit today, but it'll be interesting to see here early on how aggressive Kemba Walker is. You see he takes it right to the rack on the first play. I think that's your answer. Kemba Walker now 2 of 6, though, from the floor. But as we've seen already earlier in the year, he can have a quiet first half and then just explode in the second half. He can explode, and the thing that I felt was most interesting along the stat sheet in the first half for Kemba Walker, only 5 field goal attempts. Remember, he took 27 shots against Pitt, so he needs to be more aggressive and look to take over this game for his team to win this. And as we've talked about, too, there's probably not a quicker player in America than the guy that wears number 15 in white. Kemba Walker, he is so quick and he's able to create his own shot. Also, not the biggest of guys, but still able to get inside. He's able to get inside and finish at the rim. And what makes you quicker is you have the ability to knock down the outside shot, which Kemba Walker does. Kemba Walker with the basketball. And Robertson has been matched up with him. Gives it up and an open look. No good. And the box out underneath. Good job by Anthony Crater. South Florida wants to run, and they beat UConn down the floor. Great pass there by Anthony Crater. Again, we talked about how he did not start the game. Stan Heath elects to start him in the second half because of the stellar play in the first. Here's Jeremy Lamb. A 2-point lead for South Florida here on New Year's Eve. And a whistle away from Kemba Walker. And a foul underneath against South Florida. Right here, white ball. 31, Jared Famous, third personal. So UConn comes in again 10-1, but 0-1 in Big East play. That lost to Pitt. South Florida 6-8 and 0-1 in Big East play. UConn, remember, started 4 of 5 in this game. Since then, 5 of 20. And that could be big, that last foul. That was on Jared Famous. That's his third. Walker trying to create. No good. Tipped. And it'll stay with the Huskies. It's been a marathon of hoops on ESPN2. Saw some of those highlights during our halftime. But Purdue winning without Robbie Hummel, 82-69. But program you know quite well as Kemba Walker hits that in the lane. Tennessee, and Bruce Pearl and his club had it going early on with some big wins, including one over Pitt. But since then,
losses.
The bottom has fallen out. When you look at the losses, they lost to Oakland, they lost to Charlotte today, the College of Charleston, and Bruce Pearl getting ready to serve that suspension during SEC games. And one of the interesting games will be right here in this building against Connecticut. Bruce Pearl will be allowed to coach that game, but not the SEC games. And Tennessee has lost their mojo that they had early on. 2 great games in Madison Square Garden, and also you mentioned that Pitt win.
Now it's Walker. They're going to have to get some big wins in SEC play to get themselves a resume that's worthy of the tournament.
Absolutely, and the SEC is down this year. You look at the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the Big East, clearly those are the cream of the crop when it comes to conferences this year in men's basketball. And so it'd be tougher to pick up a quality win in a conference like the SEC this year as opposed to, say, the Big East.
And Lamb dribbled into trouble. Jim Calhoun over there talking with him. So because of that, Napier is back in the game. Where would you project, Kara, when you look at a guy like Kemba Walker, who's not a big player, 6'1", at that next level? Where is he going to play? And that's a tough shot hit there on the left elbow by Hugh Robertson. Yeah,
Kemba Walker's size, he has to be a point guard at the next level. UConn plays him a lot off the basketball because they need a scoring. They need a scoring in the half court. He's having to carry this team offensively. I think Kemba Walker has the opportunity absolutely to be an NBA player, and with his competitiveness and how much he's improved his first 3 years in college, he'll be a special player. Now, Hugh Robertson has been on Walker, matched up with him, but this time on the offensive end, pretty big-time shot here. Well, Hugh Robertson has been very aggressive. He scored double figures in 4 straight games, so he's a guy riding a hot streak, and he has done a good job using his length on the defensive end tonight against Kemba Walker. And Walker hits the first free throw. He's perfect there from the line tonight, 5 of 5. It's going to be interesting as we talk about, as we get later in the season, you talk about players for the NBA, and of course with the lockout looming in the NBA, how is that going to affect some of these guys' decisions maybe that aren't locks for the lottery or aren't locks for the first round? You and I, as we mentioned, we had that game with Kansas, and we talked to Bill Self about it, and pretty interesting thoughts with the looming situation, what could happen financially for a kid. And he said, look, if we have a kid that we know that is going to make a lot of money, and that's where he's projected to go, one of the top, maybe a lottery pick, who are we to keep him back? Go make the money and go enjoy yourself. And you've accomplished something great here in college, but you also talked about the flip side of that, if you're not for sure in that position, coming back and improving your stock. Well, there's multiple reasons if you're not sure. One, the guarantee for rookies now is only at 2 years. And, there's a lot of players, Cole Aldridge, Hasheem Thabeet, one of the players here that have been sent down to the D-League and had promising college careers, were lottery picks. And it's not always that easy as a young player going up to the NBA level. Here's Gilchrist from 15, and he got it. Shoots it over Oriaki, the 6'9 sophomore, and South Florida leads it 36-31. We did not expect this, did we? We're starting to see why Jim Calhoun was worried a little bit about Augustus Gilchrist, calling him the most talented post player in the Big East, saying he wasn't. I'm not saying he's the best post player, but he's got the most talent of any big man in this conference. Crater got himself some space and a chance at a three-point play. Ron Anderson Jr.
Foul charge number 10, Tyler Olander. 4th personal foul on Olander.
Well, Ron Anderson Jr., you see South Florida really exerting their influence in the paint, the strength that they have. Great job finishing with contact over Tyler Olander.
So Kwandu with 3, Olander with 4, and Kara has some New Year's resolutions. Not for herself, not for me, but for these teams when we come back. Welcome back to ESPNU's coverage of college basketball, built by the Home Depot as the University of South Florida. The Bulls on the road to take on number 4 UConn, the Huskies from the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut. Kara Lawson, Dan McLaughlin, and how about some resolutions here on New Year's Eve?
Well, for South Florida, lose the losing late, and they've been in close games all year. Every loss of theirs has been by single digits, but they've been not able to finish the job and then find a point guard. And so, some of those resolutions already in good favor with South Florida with Michael Crater's play tonight, Anthony Crater's play tonight. And then for UConn, Husky pups coming of age. We see the struggles sometimes with their youth on the offensive end. They need more help for Kemba Walker. And an ornery Oriaki. I think Jim Calhoun wants a tougher post player in the paint, a guy that's going to play physical. You see the imposing front line of USF really going to town against the Huskies front line.
This is the biggest lead of the night for the Bulls against number 4 UConn here on the road. So I ask you, Kara, if you're Jim Calhoun, you know Kemba Walker's your best player. Some believe the best in America. How do you get him more involved to get better looks and get him the ball?
What UConn needs to be better at on the offensive end is screening. And screening is twofold. It's the big man setting a good screen, but their guards need to set up their screens better. You see Kemba Walker, the timing there was off. If they can screen better, they'll be able to free him or utilize the extra attention paid to him to get an easy shot.
They've thrown Burwell on him right now, trying to face guard him wherever he goes. Walker off the pick. Good look. See, that's all set up by Kemba Walker. They overplay on him, and it opens it up.
Absolutely. That's utilizing the extra attention paid by Kemba Walker, and that's what this team needs to understand. If you set a good screen for number 15, it's going to come back to you in the form of an easy shot.
Anthony Crater brings it up the floor. This crowd trying to get back into it. They'll play 10 games here in Hartford. Gilchrist, fade away on the baseline.
How about that? The step back. He's really shown us his entire offensive repertoire.
Napier answers.
And that's the other thing that Jim Calhoun is telling his players. They need to push pace. Again, Kemba Walker's easier to free up. Shots, your windows of opportunity, they're much larger when you push the basketball.
You know, Gilchrist and Robertson, 11 of 18 for South Florida. UConn as a team, 12 of 31. So those two have been very good. Offensive foul. Kemba Walker for the second time, slow to get up. This time he's holding his right knee when he got up and now limping down the floor.
Kemba Walker doing a nice job of anticipating, getting position, beating Crater to the spot. He's a tremendous defensive player as well when you talk about Kemba Walker. His ability to slither through screens, create ball pressure.
Oriaki gives it up, and they're trying to see if Walker can pop out. He slowed up a little bit after what happened defensively, but doesn't need to do anything there. Nice lead. That's what they were working around at the shoot-around today, that play right there.
You love what Napier does there and his aggressiveness, being able to turn the corner. If the guard can turn the corner, it's a bad hedge. He knows he has his big man going to the basket. Great pass.
Lead has been cut to 4. We saw them run that play probably 25 different times. Strip. But a foul. And that'll go on Napier. Alex Oriaki, the 6'9" sophomore from Massachusetts.
Well, great job by Napier of turning the corner. He talked about the bad hedge. That frees Oriaki. Help side is too late because the ball's in the middle of the floor. Great execution there by UConn.
Gilchrist at the line. 3 of 5 from the free throw line. Gilchrist with 15 points. Robertson with 11. Anthony Crater with a couple of threes, and then a 2 with 8 points. That's a scoring for South Florida. 1 of 2 from the free throw line. And checking back in, Torlin Fitzpatrick, the sophomore from Tampa. They said that this is the first time he had seen snow. Torlin Fitzpatrick, who is from the Tampa area, and then Sean Noriega is also from Florida. Those two had never seen snow.
Wow. You come to Connecticut, you'll see a lot of snow.
Yeah, we get plenty of it here. There's that defense again by Kemba Walker.
Bulls foul on the screen.
Well, before you watch the 6 bowl games on ESPN's family of networks tomorrow, New Year's Day, ESPNU prepares fans with pregame coverage. 10 a.m. Eastern, get the latest analysis and predictions. College Game Day, 11 Eastern, 1st and 10 College Football Bowl edition. 11:30 a.m. catch college football whip around. Northwestern, Texas Tech, Alabama, Michigan State, Florida, Penn State, Mississippi State, Michigan, Wisconsin, TCU, and then UConn, and number 7 Oklahoma. And again, that's 8:30 Eastern for the Connecticut fans tuned in tonight. UConn and Oklahoma, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Kemba Walker missed the easy layup there, but you see the hustle with him, getting the basketball back and creating a turnover.
This is Giffey, young man from Germany, and that won't go down, and it's stuck, which then constitutes a jump ball, and it's in favor of South Florida.
You have to love the way that Alex Oriaki is working in the paint, and I'm sure the UConn post players were challenged at halftime. He looked at the dominance by the USF front line, and he has responded here in the second half on the boards and scoring the basketball.
12:33 to go. 42-37. Again, if you're just joining us, Connecticut started this ball game on an 8-0 run. Looked like they might blow South Florida out tonight, but that's not the case. A whistle and a foul and a chance at a three-point play for Jared Famous.
Oh, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And their post game has been tried and true for them this evening. Jared Famous getting in on the act. Great shot fake, gets Okwandu up.
Famous, 1 foul shot.
And great finish. How did he get that one off between 3 guys?
Now, Famous is a neat story. He has a daughter, London, who is only about 6 or 7 months old. And he is one of the leaders of this team. His sister is a social worker, and his mother passed away when he was 3, and they're going to call that on the floor. But Jared Famous, he doesn't want to go to the NBA. He wants to have a dry cleaners. He said he grew up in a tough spot in the Bronx, New York, didn't have that, dry cleaners, so he wants to run that and provide something for his community.
Well, it's a great story as you see Ariaki getting himself a foul there on the floor, so not to the free throw line. But Jared Famous grew up in the projects in the Bronx, New York, and he said that the laundromat and dry cleaners were something that is a community thing as he gets that rebound there, and he wants to give back to the community. Great young man.
There he is with the basketball. Gilchrist right around his man. 3 Huskies were there, and will stay with South Florida with 11:45 to play. The Bulls surprising number 4 UConn. ESPNU's coverage of college basketball built by the Home Depot. 44-37. .938 to play, 46-41 in favor of South Florida. South Florida has shot 46% on the road tonight, and Connecticut at 39%. That's why they only have 41 points. Let's see if they can get things going with that young man right there, Kemba Walker.
Kemba Walker, he's the igniter for this team. He's the player that all the freshmen look to create plays. And you talk about freshmen, Jim Calhoun with 3 true freshmen on the court right now.
South Florida has out-rebounded Connecticut 13-4 here in the second half. Here's Poland, too strong. Walker's got it. Look at the speed here. Not even close. And following the play, the big man, Oriaki.
Well, Jim Calhoun goes back to man, but it's full court pressure. He's going to try to put the full court pressure on. Nice trap here right over the half-court line.
Anderson Jr. wanted it back. They were able to retreat. And we've got 8:40 to play. And all of a sudden, Connecticut right back in the game, down by 3. It's a 7-0 run by the Huskies. Anderson Jr. trying to create. He does, but no good. Ripped down by Kemba Walker. Single-handedly getting Connecticut back in this game.
USF foul, number 31, Jared Famous, his 4th personal foul.
Well, what has changed for USF on the offensive end? Well, Connecticut has upped the pressure, and look at the area where their shots are coming from. All through the second half, it's been on the block. It's been an offensive rebound. Well, now it's jump shots, and if UConn can continue to make USF take jump shots, their chances are really, really good.
4th foul on Jared Famous. Kemba Walker at the line. He's 7 of 8 there tonight. 15 points to lead Connecticut. And he missed. A rare miss by Walker. And Crater across the timeline. Poland inside. That's how you answer. Here comes Walker the other way. Leaves it, and he wants it back. Gets it there. Now he's on the baseline with his quickness and draws contact and a foul. Boy, is he quick.
Is he hard to keep in front of you? Kemba Walker, and again, it starts with his ability to make that outside shot. You have to get up close to him to challenge because of his proficiency from beyond the three-point line. But there's a sense of urgency here in Kemba Walker the last 3 or 4 minutes.
Eight of 10 from the free throw line. 16 points. Gilchrist and Walker both with 16. Anderson Jr. will have a seat. Noriega is back in for the Bulls. 8:04 to go. And with a make, you can set up that pressure too.
Absolutely, and Shabazz Napier is one of the best on-ball defenders that this team has. So we talked about the inexperience at point guard for the Bulls.
Robertson up the floor. Break the pressure fairly easily. And a whistle and a stoppage in play. That's going to go against Connecticut, and I believe that's going to go against Smith. So a 3-point lead for South Florida. Trying to pull off an upset on the road here on New Year's Eve. College basketball on ESPNU is built by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. Tonight's ESPNU Campus Connection brings you campus life through the eyes and voices of the students. Let's listen in as a few of the Huskies give us their resolutions for the new year.
My name is Kemba Walker, and my New Year's resolution is to eat healthier.
My name is Alex Oriaki, and my New Year's resolution is to win the Big East Championship.
My New Year's resolution is to be a better teammate.
I'm Shabazz Napier, and my New Year's resolution is to make the Dean's List and play in the NCAA tournament.
So we gave him a flip cam, and lo and behold, we got some New Year's resolutions out of it. Nice job, guys.
Big East Championship, that would be great for this UConn team, but they will have to dig out of this hole in South Florida, and this could be potentially an 0-2 start for them in the Big East.
How about Napier with those quick hands in the strip? Gets it to Lamb, who's wide open for 3. Tipped, Napier with it again. Reset the offense with Kemba Walker. They double on him. To pull within 1, no. And the rebound off the miss by Poland. Sophomore from Wichita, Kansas. See the stat track at the bottom of your screen. 3-point lead for South Florida.
UConn shows man to start the possession, but they go to a 2-3 zone and are able to get the turnover.
Napier again. Just seems to be in the right spots. Little hesitation. Spins in the lane. A wild shot. No good. There he is again. Gives it to Lamb. Lamb will shoot 2.
USF foul number 24.
Oh, that's great hustle by Shabazz Napier. And it all started with this. Great penetration there. Able to get the block. Jeremy Lamb, he's a guard, but he's got those long arms, tremendous rebounding the basketball. And I thought Shabazz Napier took a questionable shot there on the fast break, but he made up for it, stayed with the play, and as a result, Lamb's at the free throw line.
Ron Anderson Jr. back in for the Bulls. Fitzpatrick will have a seat. Connecticut within 1. The number 4 team in the land. Now a chance at the lead. Lamb. Could have been a kick, but no call. Prater with it. Six and a half to play. Tipped out of bounds. Those long arms of Jeremy Lamb, the 6'5" freshman.
Well, this is Anthony Crater's moment right here. He has to get this team going, and very well could have been called a kick basketball, but this is his moment right here. He played well in the first half. He has to direct this team. USF has had a penchant for blowing leads and blowing close games down the stretch.
Prater pulls it for 3. Lamb the rebound. Gets it ripped out of his hands, and a fresh 35 for South Florida. Gilchrist in the lane. Ball fake. He'll shoot 2.
That's good offense. Settle it down. Come with what brought you here, and that's your post play. And Augustus Gilchrist, good execution, continuity offense, getting him on a cut to the basket. And UConn has had no answer for USF post players when they've been able to catch the basketball deep in the paint.
Hawaii and Nevada coming up after our ball game here. We've got a good one, 48-47. South Florida by 1 with an even 6 to play. Nine and 9 in the Big East a year ago for South Florida. Year before, they were 4-14. It was a 20-win campaign last year. 1 of 2 from the free throw line. And trying to pull off an upset against number 4. The Connecticut Huskies, and a timeout taken by South Florida. Capital One Bowl Week continues tomorrow, New Year's Day on ESPNU, as Northwestern, the Wildcats, will face Texas Tech, the Red Raiders. The inaugural Ticket City Bowl in Dallas. Wildcats trying to pick up their first win since 1949 in a bowl game. And it's the Ticket City Bowl on ESPNU tomorrow. New Year's Day at noon Eastern. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. Northwestern out of the Big 10, Texas Tech, the Big 12, and passing yards 6th in the FBS when you talk about the Red Raiders, and you'll see it tomorrow, noon Eastern on ESPNU. Northwestern and Texas Tech. Well, take me inside both huddles during that timeout. You've got an even 6. What are you trying to accomplish with your kids?
If you're Stan Heath, you're talking directly to Anthony Crater, trying to get him to settle down, understand that the pressure is going to come. They're going to try and force turnovers. Jim Calhoun telling his guys to rebound the basketball, get on the boards, do not allow South Florida to take over this game in the paint. And
again, they had a chance to take the lead there. They trail by 2. A 3 from the right side, rattles out, and a strong rebound by Oriaki. Looking for Walker, they get it to him. Kemba Walker for the lead. Tipped. Back to South Florida.
Can't leave the basketball. I don't care who you are on South Florida's team. If Kemba Walker has the ball in transition, do not leave him until he gives it up. They gave him a clean look at the basket.
If you're thinking about foul trouble for UConn, Olander's already out. Oriaki with 3, Akwandu with 4. So that could be a big, big telling stat. Those fouls down the stretch. Under 5 minutes to play. We've got 10 on the shot clock. And a foul on Lamb. It is interesting when you watch Jim Calhoun's team, the youth that they have, and at times that youth is shown here tonight.
Well, if you're Jeremy Lamb, it's clearly a mismatch in the back of that 2-3 zone. He's getting posted up by Augustus Gilchrist, who nobody has been able to contain all night. So credit USF on the offensive end. They're exploiting that. And if you're Jeremy Lamb, don't move your feet on a post player taking a jump shot. Don't leave your feet, I should say.
Gilchrist hits the first. 5 of 9 from the free throw line. He's got 17 points. Kemba Walker also with 17 for Connecticut. Check that, Gilchrist now with 18. And South Florida's in the double bonus, so that could be a factor down the stretch here as well. Reminder, Nevada and Hawaii coming up. Here's Kemba Walker. Lost it. And he wants it back. Kemba Walker for 3.
Anytime you get more physical with Kemba Walker, he seems to take it as a personal challenge, a personal vendetta, and trying to prove that he's going to score on you.
Right in front of us, he's playing great defense. Kemba Walker with 20. Great look underneath. Lead back at 3.
That's one of those gambles. If you're Napier, you better get it. You better get it because you put your team in a 5-on-4 situation.
Inside, we've seen that tonight. The left from Oriaki. Oriaki with 15. Walker with 20. Gilchrist answers again for South Florida.
A little miscommunication for UConn on that end.
Gilchrist with 21 on 7 of 12. Under 3.5 to play. It's been a heck of a ball game.
It's been a great ball game.
Flash at the free throw line. Jamal Coombs McDaniel, the 6'7 sophomore. Augustus Gilchrist on the road tonight for South Florida, and he's had a big night for the Bulls. 7 of 13 with 21 points. Gilchrist with 21 to lead all scorers for South Florida. Kemba Walker, the nation's leading scorer, with 20 tonight. 3:08 to play. And South Florida with a 3-point lead. Kara Lawson, Dan McLaughlin with you. Big East basketball tonight here on ESPNU. 3-point lead.
Two free throws.
We will have more live college basketball tonight on ESPNU. New Year's Eve coverage. Hawaii and Nevada coming up. Hawaii went 2-1 at the Diamond Head Classic last week in Honolulu. They beat Utah and Mississippi State. It was arguably the toughest road trip in the history of college basketball for Mississippi State. But that's coming up, so more live coverage of college basketball coming up. Good one here, 1-point lead.
UConn electing to stay in this 2-3 zone.
Shot clock is at 10. Poland lost it to Walker. Here comes Kemba Walker. Off the glass and good. Huskies on top. Napier. Their last lead was at 8:03 of the first half when they led 16-15. Big possession here. Timeout taken by USF with 17 on the shot clock.
Well, in the Big East, if you want to win conference games, it's all about want to, and Kemba Walker wanted that rebound. Great pass ahead to Shabazz Napier. He's got the contact, he finishes, and UConn takes the lead.
Once again, coming up next, Western Athletic Conference basketball. Roxy Bernstein is standing by. The University of Hawaii will take on the University of Nevada, the Wolfpack from Reno, Nevada, right here on ESPNU. Live coverage of college basketball built by the Home Depot continues tonight here on New Year's Eve. .17 on the shot clock. What does Stan Heath draw up here?
Get it inside. Get it inside to Gilchrist, even against the zone. If you can get a one-on-one matchup and a paint touch for him, that's where you have to go.
Zone again by UConn. Prater looking for help. Gets it back down to 4 on the shot clock. Anderson Jr. has to let it fly. Beats the clock. It's loose. And a hustle play by South Florida, kept alive by Poland. Heads up play. And with 1:50, they'll have the basketball down by 1.
Even though UConn is in that 2-3 zone, they're packing the paint. South Florida cannot afford to miss the moment with Gilchrist. If they have the opportunity to give him the basketball, they have to take advantage of it.
Once again, this is number 4 in the country. The Huskies of Connecticut here at home on the ropes as they lead it by 1. A little confusion offensively here by South Florida. Now they finally get into it. May have been a travel, no call. Walker chasing after it. Good hustle play near the Bulls bench. 13 on the shot clock.
Well, at some point here, someone on the perimeter for USF is going to have to step up and make a play. It might be a shot, it might be a penetration and a pass, but one of these 3 guards is going to have to step up and be aggressive.
Robertson inbounds. Down to 9 on the shot clock. Here's Prater. Inside it goes to Gilchrist, and a travel. A travel with 5 on the shot clock. 1:21 to play.
The difference in UConn's 2-3 zone and forcing turnovers have been the guards at the top. They've been very active, and Gilchrist sensed the double team coming, rushed a little bit, and that forced the turnover.
Again, a reminder, Hawaii and Nevada coming up. Live coverage of college basketball as we take this time out. Jim Calhoun wants to talk it over. He's been in this spot about 1,000 different times. One of the most experienced coaches in all of basketball.
I love conference play, and I love the chess match. If you don't like what you've got going on out there and you want to make sure you put your team in the position to get a perfect shot, that's what Stan Heath tried to do in calling a timeout, and Jim Calhoun wants to reiterate with his players who needs to have the basketball with the game on the line, and I've got a pretty good guess. It's going to be number 15.
1-point lead for UConn, 1:16 to go. Coming up next, live coverage on New Year's Eve here on ESPNU. College basketball built by the Home Depot. Hawaii against Nevada. South Florida now has 8 turnovers in the second half. UConn only 3 in the second half. Connecticut is 18 of 22 from the free throw line. You always look at that. South Florida, conversely, 10 of 18. Just over a minute to go. Kemba Walker, good defense, but still pulls up and knocks one down and smiles at the home crowd.
That's what makes him an All-American so far this year, one of the best players in the country. It's not how you score your points, it's when you do, and he does them in big moments.
And remember, South Florida still has 2 timeouts if they want to use one here to get the right play that they want. Under 15 on the shot clock. 3-point lead for Connecticut. Prater for a tie. Yes!
Wow.
58 all.
At some point, a guard from USF needed to emerge here down the stretch, and we talked about their search for a point guard. Who can step up in the close games and make big plays? And Anthony Prater has done that tonight, shooting the basketball. They double team on Augustus Gilchrist, and Prater with the big shot. We've got a tie ball game here, Dan.
11 points for Prater. That was his 3rd 3 at 2 in the first half. 4 of 6 from the floor tonight. 35 minutes of play for Prater. He has had to run the point. Sometimes he's had to switch and guard Kemba Walker. And really has done a nice job.
And that wasn't a bad defensive possession by UConn at all. They got the ball out of Gilchrist's hands, and ultimately it was a contested shot by a guard. But
in your experience, at what point do you take it down? You say, all right, let's get it into Kemba Walker's hands for a chance to win this game.
A chance to win this game, and you want to have the only opportunity to win this game if you're Connecticut.
So at what point on the clock do you think you do that?
I try to get him the ball right away, because if I'm USF, if he doesn't start with the basketball, there's no way I'm going to try and let him get it.
So Napier has it. We've had 6 ties, 4 lead changes in the game. Number 4 UConn with the basketball and possibly a chance to win it here in the final seconds. Hands it to Walker. 10 seconds to go. Kemba Walker, they double on him. Napier puts it on the floor. Little floater. No good. Pulled away, and we head to OT here on New Year's Eve. Tied up at 58.
You know, Stan Heath came with the double team. He wanted to get the basketball out of Kemba Walker's hands. They timed it perfectly. I thought Kemba Walker gave the basketball up a little bit too early. If the double team's coming at you, draw them in, wait for them to come. So the run that they make after the pass is longer. He also floated the pass, which gave USF time to recover.
So tied up at 58. Big East basketball tonight here on ESPNU. A little bonus coverage. South Florida and UConn. Reminder, we have Hawaii and Nevada coming up. Live coverage of their game immediately following overtime here. First overtime for UConn. It's the 3rd already for South Florida, so they are familiar with this spot.
Well, we said at the top that South Florida is used to playing in close games, and their struggle this season has been finishing out close games. They've not been able to do that. They've played a great game so far here on the road. And a lot of times in only 5 minutes of overtime, the team that has the best start carries that through and is able to come out with the win.
So number 4 UConn 58, South Florida 58. And if you're just joining us here, again, we'll get you to Nevada and Hawaii as soon as this one's done. But this ball game started with UConn on an 8-0 run, and it looked like they were going to run South Florida back to Tampa. I mean, right out of the gym, but South Florida withstood that early pressure and really played a heck of a ball game in regulation. Let's see what they have left.
Well, South Florida also stretched a lead out there in the second half. They were dominant in the paint. And UConn had to claw their way back, changing to a 2-3 zone, getting more active from Napier and Walker, and they've been able to get to the tie here.
And the tip is controlled by USF. Kemba Walker with 22 tonight. Augustus Gilchrist with 21 for South Florida. Here's Gilchrist. They double on him. Out to Robertson. Prater with the huge 3 to tie it up. Poland puts it on the floor. 5 on the shot clock. Inside. No good. UConn pulls away. They've got numbers. Walker for 3. Strong rebound inside, but rejected. And USF will have extended possessions here. UConn has gone to the zone. It's proved to be pretty effective. Gilchrist travel. Stan Heath pleading his case that he was pushed, but Gilchrist called for the traveling violation.
Every time Gilchrist has touched the ball down the stretch, UConn has come with a double team or the fear of a double team from the top, and that's made Gilchrist travel twice here.
Walker again for three. Nearly the putback. That one is good. Inside. Coombs McDaniel. Connecticut on top. We're in overtime. Just over 3 minutes to go. Famous trying to feed it underneath. A whistle hit the underneath portion of the backboard, so out of bounds and back to UConn.
Placing number 24, Augustus Gilchrist.
Clearly, the idea has been get the ball to Kemba Walker.
Yeah, they're going to a little flex action here. What UConn calls their elbow action, and try and get Kemba Walker on the backside.
Missed everything. Here's Poland in the lane, no. And the rebound to Napier.
That flash to the high post has been consistently open against UConn's zone, but USF not able to take advantage when they catch the ball there. That's where you want to get it when you're playing against the zone.
We've only had 2 points scored here in the overtime. Here's Kemba Walker. Hesitation, contact, may have forced the shot, but he stays with it in a fresh 35.
Smart play.
And Jim Calhoun wants a timeout. Wants to talk this one over and get a good look. 27 on the shot clock and 1:52 to play in overtime. And Connecticut, the number 4 team in the country, leading by 2. How do you try to get him open and get him a good look? They've just about tried everything with Kemba Walker.
Well, there's a couple things you can do. One, you make them pay for the extra attention, and what's been good for them has been ball screen action. You can run Napier off the ball screen. You know, on the weak side, if you have Kemba Walker there, they're going to stay attached to him. If you run Walker off the ball screen, that's going to open up an opportunity for somebody else. He has the ability one-on-one. If you give him the basketball, he'll create a shot.
Once again, ESPNU coverage of college basketball built by the Home Depot, and we are the home right now this week of the top 5. We had Duke and the historic win by Coach K. Number 3, Kansas on Wednesday. Tonight, number 4, UConn. Tomorrow, you'll see number 5, Syracuse against Notre Dame, who's number 15. And again on Sunday, unbeaten Kansas going against Miami of Ohio. So great games right here on ESPNU. And coming up, Nevada and Hawaii. Live coverage continuing of college basketball here on ESPNU.
You know, there's so many levels of what extra attention to one player can give to you. And when you talk about Kemba Walker, not only can he free up other players for shots, but we've seen here in the overtime the offensive rebounding of UConn coming to life. Well, those players, whether it's Roscoe Smith or Jamal Kuz-McDaniel, their players are worried about Kemba Walker, and that can allow them to sneak in and maybe get a cheap one.
Kara, have you seen him force a little bit here in the extra time?
Yes, and that's what he should be doing. That's exactly what he should be doing, because this is new territory. This is uncharted territory for the young players that he has. He's out there with 2 freshmen, and everyone looks to his demeanor. They look to see him in attack mode, and they gain confidence when Kemba Walker is in that mode.
7 rebounds total from the starting front line. Smith, Oriaki, Akwandu, and 7 rebounds alone for Walker. Think about that. You know, Walker, one of their shortest guys at 6'1", is right there with the big 3.
And a lot of that has come late in the second half when UConn went to the zone, recognizing that UConn was struggling in their defensive blockouts, and Kemba Walker came down from the top of that zone to help hold USF to 1 shot.
Here's Napier. Walker at the head of the key. All over him is Crater. Walker trying to penetrate. He does! Wow! Big possession here for South Florida. 24 for Kemba Walker. Just over a minute to play. USF has not scored here in overtime. UConn with a 4-point lead, 17 on the shot clock, 1:05 to play. Again, a reminder, Nevada and Hawaii coming up.
Well, you can draw up any kind of defense that you want, but guess what? There is no defense for Kemba Walker. There's no defense for great offense, and what a difficult shot. Hanging in the lane, the degree of difficulty, and you see the help side coming over. He's got to loft it over Gilchrist there. Tough as nails, Kemba Walker.
And let's see what Stan Heath wants to draw up here. Gilchrist with 21 tonight. Hugh Robertson with 11. Crater has 11. 3 big threes. Three up right side. There's an open look, and Kemba Walker rips it down. He has been everywhere here tonight. Here's Walker. Difference of 20 seconds or so in the game clock and the shot clock. Well, you might want to think about fouling at some point, but not anymore, as Walker dribbles into trouble. And the shot clock is, that's right, shot clock is off. 4-point lead for UConn. They've got to hurry up.
Any more urgency? They're down 2 possessions.
Poland lets it fly. That's no good. Too late. Waited way too long. And is it a foul or a jump ball? I'm going to say it'll be a foul against Ron Anderson Jr. The other thing, too, Kara, is that, you know, once they missed on the previous possession, you might want to think about putting Connecticut on the line. And then right there, Poland, indecisive, waited too long. But those are a couple of things that you question now down the stretch.
Extending the game. And when you're in a situation when you're playing from behind, every second is valuable. And, you know, Stan Heath electing not to foul there. But the clock now is run down under the time of a shot clock. And now you're in a situation where you're down 4 points and you have to foul if you miss or make on that offensive possession.
Connecticut tonight from the free throw line, 18 of 22 and 10 of 18 on the other side for South Florida.
Well, this is what we talked about all throughout the game, Dan, is you see in close games South Florida's inability to make the correct plays. And it started with UConn's comeback. Crater had a couple of turnovers. And down the stretch here, they're not as settled and they don't execute as much as they need to on both ends.
James McDaniel hit them both. Lead at 6. Robertson. Too strong with 6.1 seconds remaining. A foul on South Florida, and this should do it. And UConn looks like they're going to survive here at home in overtime.
And you can talk about execution all you want, but the difference late is plain to see. Is UConn has a great player, a guy you can give the basketball and he can create. And USF doesn't. And in the moments that mattered most, UConn had somebody that they could give the basketball to and go get a shot.
Roscoe Smith at the line, 86% free throw shooter. Now it's 3 possessions. Barring a miracle, this game is over. UConn will survive and go to 11-1 this year. The zone defense made a difference down the stretch. And as you mentioned, Kara, bottom line, Kemba Walker is one of the best players in America, and that probably is the difference in this game. Absolutely,
that was the difference. He really asserted himself in the second half and through overtime. Took it upon his shoulders and said, young guys, come follow me. I'm going to lead you to victory tonight.
Jim Calhoun and the Huskies of Connecticut. Only one loss on the year, 66-61. Kemba Walker, big night, 7 of 18 shooting, 24 points. 8 rebounds for Kemba Walker. Once again, our final score in overtime. Connecticut 66, South Florida 61. For Carol Lawson and our entire ESPNU crew, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Coming up next, Western Athletic Conference Basketball, Hawaii at Nevada. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. The proceeding has been an exclusive presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Good night from Hartford as we send it to Reno, Nevada.